Okay, well, welcome everybody. Glad to be here. I'm here with Colleen.
Oh, hi.
That's you.
That's me.
And we're here with Danny today.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you and be here today.
Hello. And we have a group of people that are here with us as well for our live Q&A episode of the podcast. We love it when people get to join us live. We love these conversations, the questions that lead to the wonderful conversations about Reiki and spiritual aspects of our Reiki practices and our spiritual practices. So a few announcements. Let's see. June, we're kind of through our teaching. Colleen is presenting at the Omega Institute next week, so the 21st, and at the Wisdom of Reiki conference. She's one of the presenters there, and that is in Rhinebeck, New York. So if you happen to be going to that, definitely say hi to her and let her know, like, hey, I listened to the podcast, but we definitely love to see the community there. So definitely come up and say hi. So there's that. And then we are kind of in a little bit of a hiatus of teaching until, let's see, the end of July, correct? She doesn't teach before that, Reiki, human Reiki. Yeah. So we have animal Reiki at the end of July. Our 1 and 2 class is the 27th and 28th. And then the master class is July 29th through the 31st. And one thing about that class is that we actually started that class, and we start that class at 8 a.m. So for those of you, it's online. So for those of you that might, Pacific. So for those of you that might be in, the Eastern time zone, it might be a little easier to join that class, or even in other time zones around the world, because sometimes we do have people in our classes that join us from other parts of the world. So it might be helpful for you that we start at 8 a.m. Pacific. Plus, in the summertime, it's nice to get done a little bit earlier in the evening. And then we are back to our regularly scheduled teaching program after that, where we're teaching animal Reiki, human Reiki, just about every month. So you can go to reikilifestyle.com and find our calendar of classes. We would love for you to join us. All right, I think that's kind of it. Registration for Japan is up. So if you are interested in taking Reiki Master or Karuna Reiki Master on Mount Kurama, which is the birthplace of Usui Reiki, where he received Reiki, you can go to reiki.org to find out more information about that. It's a 5-day intensive workshop, retreat, all of those kinds of things. Maybe not quite a retreat, but they are teaching on Mount Kurama. Colleen and William Rand are co-teaching that class, and it's an amazing experience. So if you are hearing that call, definitely you can go to reiki.org, or of course email Colleen at reikilifestyle.com. Okay, I think that's it.
One more.
Oh, okay.
One quick one. The Reiki retreat in Sedona. So that is coming up over Labor Day weekend, September, the end of August, beginning of September in Sedona, Arizona. It also is going to be online. So you can go to reikiretreat.com for more information about that. Also, so anyway, okay, I think we're good. All right, so should I just go ahead and go into the invocation?
Please do.
Okay, yes, we all agree. And do we don't stop the recording for that, right? I ask you this every time, I think.
No, we just keep going.
Okay, great. All right, so for those of you that are here live, go ahead and get comfortable. Those of you listening later, go ahead and get comfortable. Also, as always, if you are listening to this while you are driving or anything else that it could be a distraction or take you into a deep, relaxed Reiki state, then please fast forward your recording to the Q&A part of the podcast and listen to this part later. Okay, so go ahead and get comfortable, everyone. I'm going to turn my video off also. And here we go. Close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Place your hands comfortably on your body. Open your heart and receive. As the light of your authentic self is revealed, the light of Reiki fills your breath, fills your body, and flows through all parts of you. And your life force, vitality, and vibrancy light up, wake up, and are revealed to you. As you breathe in the light and the power of love by every name it's called. And the power of love travels in on your breath, flows into your body, and awakens the power of love at the core of your being. As you breathe in the light and the power of the divine mind. And the divine mind fills your breath with pure consciousness and awakens and reveals your divine mind. Your divine mind lights up and becomes visible to you. Your higher thought, higher consciousness present. And opening the field of all possibilities. Your authentic intuition, imagination, instincts are all awake. Your inner guidance, inner truth, and inner authority are awake. Insights and inspiration, resourcefulness, solutions are all present. Your divine mind and your human mind and your gut brain, heart brain, human brain all working together. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine heart. And the divine heart flows through your body and shines through your heart light. In front of you and behind you and on each side, above you, below you, within you. The light of the earth rises through you and the light of the heavens shine through you and are unified right here within as you remember your body is made of the earth and gives your spirit life, your life right now in this breath. And your spirit ignites and is present in your inner awareness, awake to your own inner knowing, your wisdom, your gifts, your talents revealed. Every cell in your body awakening with your higher consciousness in your daily mind. Like the tree of life, your roots grow deeply around you in a great circle, receiving of the earth, made of the earth, communicating with the earth, even as your branches reach to the heavens and receive the wisdom and the knowledge of the ancients. As that wisdom and knowledge flows through the breeze of the four winds, through the branches, as you reach into the heavens and receive from above, below, and within. And the wisdom and knowledge wakes up within you. Wisdom and knowledge from this lifetime, other lifetimes, ancestral histories, all awake, waking up. Your perceptions expand all around you, and the beautiful beings of the light are here and present with you in a great gathering. And you open your heart and receive divine compassion and the power of love, the authority of compassion, and the light of grace fills your breath, flowing through you. Sometimes it's all hidden from you. Layers of forgetting, layers that cover your truth from your own view. Sometimes caused by the injuries and the ways and the worries of the world. Being you in this lifetime, at this moment in your soul's journey. Divine Animal Kingdom is here, and there's a space for you in the circle of life with them, and they greet you and welcome you. And you remember that you are here, part of the earth, belonging to the earth, part of the circle of life. And the rhythms of the earth and the rhythms of the moon and of the sun and of the planets, this solar system, this galaxy, the creation life force at this moment in time, in your soul's journey, your soul's history. And so you breathe in the rhythm of the earth and you breathe in the rhythm of creation, the rhythm of the moon and the cycles of the sun and of the stars. And your body aligns with the rhythms. When you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of the earth beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And when you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of creation beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And as you breathe in the light, it fills your breath, and those layers of forgetting, those layers that hide you from you, are wrapped in the light, enveloped by the light, by the power of love, the authority of compassion, and lifted from you any of their cords or connectors or attachments. Breathe deeply now and receive as this is done through the power of grace, and just release from you for you. For any reason they're there, for any time they were created, those layers are lifted into the light where they can be healed, the burdens of carrying them lifted from you. And you can just simply let them go. Saying thank you to those that have been helpful, and thank you for the lessons for those that have been very unhelpful. As the grace and authority of compassion releases it from you, and you receive the light, and remember that none of these burdens have any right or authority to have power over you. You are sovereign, and you receive the light that reveals your sovereignty to you, your selfhood. The beauty of you, your self-worth is empowered as your wholeness is revealed to you, for you. And so you take this time to receive, even though you will be active in the world. This time right now is for you to receive for you and about you the power of love, waking up your love at the core of your being, waking up the power of your divine mind, the power of your authentic intellect, your inner truth, your inner authority, your sovereignty, revealing as you breathe in the divine heart the strength and the power of your heart light shining within you, for you, and all around you. And the beautiful light is all around you in the space in which you are, and a great field of light for you, surrounding you, above you, below you. Your vitality, your vibrancy, the colors of your body, awakening from the colors of the earth and the colors of creation. Your personal power, your personal authority, awake. Breathe deeply now as you open your heart and receive. And you breathe in the divine mind, and your mind gains clarity. Your mind organizes easily, simply, practically, efficiently. As you move into the rhythm of the solstice, in this Gemini season, clarity of mind, decision making, listening, you hearing you, power of love that you are, the power of your own authentic mind, heart, mind, gut, brain, aligned with the earth, aligned with the heavens, aligned within. So take this time now and say thank you to you as you invite the alignment, the clarity, the practicalities. As Reiki fills your breath and aligns you with your own personal practicalities, your dreams, your creativity, and manifestations. And so you open your heart and you receive, attracting that to you, which is for you. So take this time and say thank you to you for listening to your heart and your mind and your gut all at the same time. Your human guidance, your inner guidance, and your divine guidance, all operating in alignment and unified. We say thank you to each other. The circle's always divinely ordered. All of us who are here live and those who listen later, as we join together to contribute wellness to this world, for ourselves, for our loved ones and families and communities, for the people, the animals, and the earth itself. And we say thank you to all the enlightened ones that join us, those named and unnamed, and those that are here for each of you, your beloved and sacred ones, that guide you. And we say thank you to the teachers who came before us, the descendants who come after. We are honored to be here today, listening and creating with great gratitude and wholeness, balance and joy, peace. Thank you, and so it is. Okay, and so for those of you that are still coming back, we stay live on the recording, so I come back quickly, more quickly than my and I get pretty deep with those sometimes. So anyway, we are very glad to be here today with all of you, and thank you for joining us. Again, those who are here live and those who listen later.
Okay, so the first question is, a while back, Teresa Bulch, who's here with us, heard and mentioned the idea of Reiki trails before going to bed for better dreams and sleep. And I wondered if she or anyone could elaborate on that. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk about that, Teresa, that would be great.
Well, hi everyone, and I absolutely love how the invocation brought in dreams and manifestations, Colleen. That was absolutely amazing. So for those of you who know me, some of you know that I've been studying dream works for about 4 years now. And I have been studying under a gentleman by the name of Robert Moss, who is a shamanic practitioner. And the reason I bring that up is I kind of want to lay kind of a foundation to answer this question in a little bit more of a depth than just to answer. I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a background for you. What I've done is with my Reiki practice, everything I do is with Reiki. And so many of us have many different disciplines that we do, and we combine that with Reiki. And so what I've done, I'm in my second year of studies with him now. He has a 3-year course that he does. And I have really been working personally on manifestation. And part of what I've been doing is setting intention. And I know for those of you that are here, we all understand intention through the trainings of Robyn and Colleen. You've heard of them in the Reiki shares, the Next Step Reiki classes, your personal Reiki classes that you've taken. And intention, energy always follows intention, and we've learned that. And my intention before I go to bed at night is to bring in my dream time, my time of creation and being a creator being that we are, and my manifestation time. And what I like to do is I set my intentions prior to my dreams of what I call happy trails or Reiki trails. Now you can invite your dream guides. I personally have a dream guide, is an angel, Archangel Gabriel. I always invite Reiki before I go to sleep. And I set my intention of, I like to travel in my dreams. I like to go to the third heaven and above. And I also I'm here to make a difference on this planet. I'm here to be that peace, that embodiment of love and peace. And that is my intentions in my dreams. And so in our waking time, we call it Reiki trails, where we set our intentions. Yesterday I went into town and my intention was everywhere that I went, I spread Reiki. It didn't matter how I felt. It didn't matter what was going on around me. My intention was that everywhere I went, Walmart, the eye doctor, wherever I went, I was going to take those Reiki trails and leave Reiki trails. And I also made the intention of everywhere I drove, I was driving those Reiki trails and I was leaving those Reiki trails. So what I do is I do the same thing in my dream time, where I set my intention of, I am going to spread Reiki trails, that I call them my happy trails, in my dream time, because we're creating in all our realities and our dream time. And dream time can be awake time as well. When you daydream, you're dreaming. And so I just invite Reiki and I call it my happy trails. And my intention is always third heaven and above. And I just, whether it's to manifest health, I've been really working on my healing, whether it's to manifest being able to ride a horse. I've envisioned myself doing that and having a blast and healing as wherever I go in my dream time. So I hope that answered the question. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to help or give you my information and talk with you a little bit. And perhaps you haven't been dreaming and you want to know why, I can kind of talk to you a little bit about that as well. Or I absolutely love the dream work and being that creator being in all our realities. And our dream time is simply one of those realities.
Fantastic. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, really beautiful. It's one of those things too that is reassuring, as with many things, that it can also be a skill. So whether you don't have any experience with your dreams, or maybe you have really powerful dreams and want to learn more skill around it, that it is it's helpful to know that you can build skill around it. And so we have a couple of follow-up questions. Has the process helped you to remember your dreams?
Yes, because energy follows intention. So my intention is I have my journal beside my bed, and my intention is that I remember my dreams, and I start setting those intentions. And even if you wake up and you can only remember 2 or 3 words, write those words down. Because what I've found is, going back to my journal, even a year later, all of a sudden an understanding comes in as to why I wrote those words down. And it absolutely changes how it's created such a fun, lucid dreaming is amazing anyway, but I won't get into the terms of, as far as we need to know, it's dreaming, our dream time. And hope that answered the question there.
Yeah, I think so. It's even writing down several, again, another skill that you can build with it. And then somebody else asked, what about nightmares?
Well, there's a whole study on that, but what I'm going to share briefly is my intention is to set my frequency with Reiki to have higher conscious third heaven and above experiences. So, in my studies and my belief is there's no negative energy. So it is energy. And there's messages within everything that we see. It's always in how we interpret it. And I can talk with that person a little bit more if they would like to. I'll put my information in the chat if people would like to email me. I'll go ahead and put my email in there.
Okay, great, Teresa. is it okay if I read it out loud too? So if anybody that's listening to
Oh,
it,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Oh, great. I'll read her information out loud. Danny had said that she had listened to a podcast this morning about lucid dreaming on her Reiki Trails walk. I love that. And so just to give a little more information about what Reiki Trails are is we learned that in the Animal Reiki Masterclass that came through as a part of that teaching. But the basic idea of it is that you activate Reiki in your feet. And as you're walking, you leave trails of Reiki where you're going. So it's a really great way to leave Reiki in a public space. To also remember that Reiki can never do harm. So anybody that walks through it, if they don't want to receive Reiki, they won't. We do this in places like grocery stores or in our house when we need some clearing and additional good energy in the space. So if you have places too, like let's say you walk through your house and There are thought forms that may occur on certain paths through your house. Reiki trails is a really great way to be able to help with those. When we learned about Reiki trails, we were actually adding Reiki into a space that was going from one barn to another barn where there had been some tension between some people that were leasing out the two different spaces. So, and it was kind of a dog that taught us about Reiki trails. So it was a really beautiful way to do that. You can put Reiki trails on all sorts of things, wheels. We have people that have put Reiki trails in canes, crutches, things like that. So as far as like mobility is concerned, you can certainly do Reiki trails with mobility assistance devices. Also, you can do Reiki trails with your car. So those are some other places that you can do Reiki trails. So awesome. And then Teresa is Teresa with an H. Bolch is BOLCH at yahoo.com is how you can reach out to her for more information about that. I will say that with the dreams, for a long time, I have epilepsy, and dreaming with epilepsy is a whole thing. I won't go into it. And I've had pretty extreme nightmares in my past, and where you wake up with, crying commonly. You wake up, sometimes you can even kind of punch the air waking up. So it's a whole thing. But one of the things that happened for me when I have gone through my kind of healing journey with anxiety, gone through my healing journey in a variety of ways, is that I used to have them quite frequently. And there were even certain types of shows that I couldn't watch because it would cause me to have nightmares that night. And now I don't really have them anymore. I mean, rarely I'll have them, but not to the level that I used to have them. But I do know that over time using Reiki has really helped with the aspect of kind of the subconscious parts of the nightmares versus the good dreams. And now my dreams are pretty good for the most part. So that's been a nice thing to notice. It was actually my acupuncturist that I was telling her about it. She's like, well, look at that change in the difference in your subconscious.
So also what you can do, which is amazing, I've actually gone back into my dreams and changed those, where I've woken up and this is part of the teaching. I used to dream about snakes on the floor, and that was a nightmare. I'm just going to say it, because I had issues with that. But then all of a sudden, I just started building my trust and building my relationship with Reiki. And then I learned that I could go back into that dream and change that dream. And so what I did was I went back into that dream where all the snakes were, and I started communicating with them. And the next thing I know, they were just following me, and they spread this path so I could get out of the room. And it was all in my dreams with my intention. And I walked out of the room and they all followed me, and then they all just went their separate ways. So that's called dream reentry. So that's why I kind of wanted to address yes, there are nightmares. I'm not dismissing that, but I've also learned that I can go back in and change that.
Oh, that's
and
great.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's great to know. I used to have a lot of zombie apocalypse nightmares. And now, yeah, I see people laughing, and now I don't. So like, even though like those kinds of things wouldn't scare me, like watching The Walking Dead or something like that doesn't scare me, but I would have such horrible nightmares afterwards that I couldn't watch it anymore. So good to know that I can go back in and I don't have them anymore, but I can go back in and talk to the zombies. So I'm not making light of that, Teresa, but a little humor.
I get it.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll stop talking about this, but really funny point is that my daughter, Luna, who's 7.5 now, has had this weird, like, fear of zombies, even though we don't watch like it because she's really sensitive to scary I mean, even movies that aren't scary, even in some Disney movies are a little scary, but even some of those, she's so sensitive to movies that we are very careful about like anything that she watches that has anything that might scare her. And so she had this very irrational fear of zombies from the time that she was really little. She couldn't hear the word. She couldn't, like we couldn't say the word even any passing conversation or anything like that. So there was some genetic thing there that happened. Poor thing. She's a little better now, but from a really young age, she had a problem with zombies too. Sorry, Luna. We got a little weird genetic disposition there. So. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to our next question. Teresa, thank you so much with that. And there might be you might have some perspective with this one as well. Do we have any comments regarding the idea of, oh, wait, this isn't about dreaming. Okay. Do we have any comments? I thought I read the question wrong. Regarding the idea of microdosing and combining that with a Reiki session. Not planning on doing this, but just got back from a retreat, and somebody had mentioned the idea of this and said it was quite powerful. And I believe this question is not regarding it from a practitioner standpoint, but either from a self Reiki standpoint or as a client standpoint. So we know kind of within our code of ethics as practitioners that, we abstain from those practices when we are giving a Reiki session to somebody else. But I believe this is as a client. And I know most people know of the term microdosing, but if you don't, there is a practice of microdosing, which means it is taking very small amounts of, usually of psilocybin, to help with a lot of different things that you might have going on. I know there's a lot of people that have had a lot of success in this with PTSD, and that there is more and more research coming out about microdosing and its benefits through, different practices and things like that. So, Colleen, I don't know if you have more information. I know you've had quite a few conversations around this. I think when it comes down to it, there's a lot of people that practice this or different styles of plant medicine when it comes to combining it with Reiki. Where I would definitely not say that I am any sort of person that can talk about this too much. I would just because I don't have any really any experience with it, other than I just know other people who have done it with success. The biggest thing I would say is just making sure you're doing it responsibly, with people who have experience with it, things like that. But Colleen, I don't know if you have more, more thoughts or information about it.
I really don't. Kind of like you, I would say from people that I know well that have been successful with treatment, with microdosing for PTSD and other different anxiety disorders, etc., senses of well-being. But I don't personally have experience, and I don't really have any skill or knowledge around it to speak to it. What I can speak to a little bit with some of the plant medicines, as a practitioner, one of the things that I do see that can really challenge people is with using some of them without professional guidance or skilled guidance.
Better word, yeah.
Is what I would say, skilled guidance. And so that's my biggest recommendation. Some of the plant medicines are really powerful, and people have powerful experiences with them and don't really have a context to understand them without the skilled facilitators, ceremonial leaders, etc. I have not personally done them. I'm not opposed to it. I have not actually found a resource where I am ready to be comfortable with the skills for me to be in that place. So I guess that's all I can say is on my personal experience, but I also know other people have had some really good success. So it's a new and emerging field. And actually, there's quite a bit that is coming out, again, with studies and professional, skilled people with it. So I'm looking forward to some of that. In fact, one of our podcast guests, Natalie Dyer, who is a PhD and in the subject, is writing a book on it, and we'll have her back after her book comes out. Again, one of the really skilled people.
That's where I would say that would be a good resource is Natalie Dyer, because she's actually the head of the Center for Reiki Research.
Mm-hmm.
So she is also a Reiki master, has a Reiki practice, but she also is very informed and skilled in the practice of psychedelics. And so, as Colleen said, she's got a book that's coming out with it. She's done webinars around it, and she didn't really talk about it on the podcast that we did with her because, there was a variety of reasons. We didn't have a ton of time at the time, and she was looking more to talk about the Center for Reiki Research stuff that's coming out around it. But we definitely will have her back, because we know that it is that lots of people combine the two modalities, definitely in support of it. Like Colleen said, skilled practitioner is a good word for it. And it can do a lot of good under the right circumstances. So that's who I would probably recommend to look to ask questions. She might know of practitioners, all of those kinds of things. But there's plenty of people in the space that also do it, but just that also are skilled practitioners around it. But that would be the thing that I would agree with Colleen around.
Because the microdosing or the psilocybin as a treatment, therapeutic treatment, is legalized in Oregon, but it's heavily licensed.
Yeah. So, but I think with that, Colleen and I are definitely not experts in the space. So we can't speak too much of it other than just, our experience with hearing from a lot of other people, being practitioners, things like that, being in Oregon, where, like she said, it's being licensed as a practice for, I think they call it psilocybin therapy or something similar to that. And as a practitioner, we, have definitely our code of ethics around practicing for other people with the use of drugs and alcohol, things like that. But I think definitely look into it and see if it calls to you. That's the other thing. I know there's also medical things that you may affect it, as far as like epilepsy is one of those things that you have to be really, if you can even do anything like that. There's a lot of stipulations around that I won't go into. So there's things like that too, to just be aware of and ask those skilled professionals, because they're going to know more about it than we are. All right. So those are good questions. Okay. Next, we have a question around the references to Christianity within the lineage of Holy Fire. That's how I would just summarize that question, Colleen. So I don't know if you want to talk more about that. And that was a question.
I would probably clarify, first of all, that the question isn't necessarily about Christianity or that it's not written in the manual about Christianity. It is working with God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and that is written about in the manuals. And so the first thing that I would say is that it's not required that you engage with those relationships, with those particular beings. They are definitely not written about from a religious perspective. They are written about as divine beings and spiritual allies and guides that definitely are in these frequencies of holy fire, Reiki. For myself, I'm very careful with my languaging around it because the question here is about teaching using those particular beings as part of the teaching, that sometimes people have difficulty with that or resistances to it. And what I would say more than anything is that even though they may be named by names, it is not exclusive to them. And in my own work with Reiki and my own work for years and shamanic work, etc., I've worked with multiple spirit guides and continue to do so. Many of the guides that I work with, Kuan Yin, some of the archangels, but also some of my shamanic guides that I have known, carrying bear medicine, for instance, and working with those energies in those fields. So I'm not in personal, the ability to write the way that the manuals are written, although I have contributed a lot to the writings in the manuals with William Rand in discussions and things. So I would say more than anything to allow yourself to expand your languaging around it, expand who you work with, allow your students to expand to any other guides that they want to work with as well. Part of this particular energy came in 2014 in a very specific way to anchor it and establish it on the planet. At that time, it did feel like a pretty narrow interpretation of what that meant. And then over time, as the energy itself established, it expanded with a greater level of spiritual connection and the different spiritual connections that we have. Particularly when 2018, when we started meeting ascended masters that became part of it, that just simply have the name brothers and sisters in the light. And actually, they're really beyond gender, so it's not specific to gender. It's a way of connecting with these beings. Now, they are the ascended masters of the world's religions and spiritual paths since ancient times. And so what I see in my classes is that people will have experiences with different spiritual guides, from all the way from obscure spiritual guides to ones that they know and are in relationship with in their particular spiritual practices or religious practices, etc. So, certainly we even have some of the beings like dragons show up very often. So there's no disallowing of that. There's no requirement that you only work with these energies, but they are a part of it. They definitely, these beings, and I've gone through my own process of kind of healing some of what I would call my religious trauma around some of it. I grew up Catholic. I grew up with wonderful relationships with Jesus and Mary and some of the saints. And then I started questioning authority in my teenage years, and I still stayed with those relationships. And then even in my shamanic work, in fact, the very first journey journey that I did in my shamanic training, I went to Jesus to ask if I was in trouble for doing it. Like, is this serious? Like, am I like not supposed to be doing this in 1997? And he came to me in that journey, and he just smiled and just said, you're good. Because he actually has a really funny sense of humor. And so he was like, you're good. It's okay. You'll be fine. And so I had to learn how to undo some of that fear in working with him and get back to that just truly heart-to-heart connection and relationship I had as a child before outside influences and outside authorities started telling me what I was supposed to believe and how, who he was and what was required of me in that relationship, which is really ultimately why I left that particular religion and looked for another path, that I could have my own authentic relationship rather than one that was told how that was supposed to be and what the rules were and what I was required to believe. And so in my relationship with him and Mother Mary, and she comes in as the Divine Mother for me a lot, where she comes in and she can present many different faces of the Divine Mother. The Holy Spirit, to be honest with you, I'm still understanding what that is and who that is. And even though I was raised that way, with that terminology, I don't think I ever really fully developed a relationship with it. So it's actually a question that I ask with Reiki, and where I am with it today is that I believe that it is the moment that we become self-aware as spirit in the creation forces, however you believe that works. In the moment we become an individual spirit and self-aware as spirit, our Holy Spirit is embodied. Our soul is in our Holy Spirit. Like, the word holy means whole. And so it's like that's within me as much as it's something else outside of me. I'm always so careful about it because there are so many different beliefs around everything that I want to make sure I'm honoring everyone's beliefs, including those who do not want to have any kind of a relationship with Jesus or Mary or the Holy Spirit or anything that sounds like that, or any relationship with spirit guides, period. I am equally comfortable with the idea that Reiki energy is a biofield and that it can absolutely be explained through the lens of science and frequency and energy and life force energy. The name Reiki by Usui, who named it Reiki, indicates that it's a life force energy that is spiritually guided or universally guided. So that gives it a certain flavor. It gives it a certain kind of connection with it. But as always, there's no requirement. And that's the same that is true with Holy Fire. And I've really enjoyed kind of going through the process, because I also went through the process of like, I don't know about this, like, wait a minute, what is this? And so I've listened around this topic a lot. And one of the things that I have really discovered is a lot of times people have let go of those relationships because of the religious trauma and the requirement that they are supposed to believe a specific way. And that a lot of times that brings back the relationship their way, through their relationship, through their own engagement with, say, Jesus. And like I say, for me, he's really funny. And he comes in all the time and he'll say, I never said that, with different things that'll show up, beliefs around him. And he'll be like, I didn't say that. So even in my journey with him to begin with, and how am I working with him in my shamanic practices, and is that okay, and all of those things, he's like, I just never said that you can't do that. He's like, I didn't say that. So that's my relationship with him. But my relationship with those beings, I'm not exclusive to only them. And I definitely do not have a religious viewpoint. I will add one more thing that I think is just kind of popped out last week. I was on TikTok, of all places, and the source and authority of everything, recent information. But there's a kid on there that's a channeler, and his mom calls him the starseed, and she asks him, he's 10 now, and she asks him all these different questions about creation and religion and what is God and who is Jesus and what happens after we die, all these things that he just channels. And he's fascinating. Again, I'm always discerning about what I'm listening to, especially on TikTok. But I was listening to him the other day, and his mom said, is there a Jesus? And he said, there's a Jesus for every planet. And I thought, oh, it's because it's, and then I think, oh, I just said that out loud. So still that old bit, piece on the inside, like, can I say that? But yeah, and I thought that just popped into my curiosity, like, ooh, I want to ask more about that. I want to know more about that. So anyway, I hope that helps answer this question. It is a question that comes up in classes, and the way that I answer it is by inviting people to receive the relationships with spirit that they personally receive. And also, I am respectful of the religious beliefs in them, and I am also respectful of the non-belief in them, or not having an intention of having a relationship with any of them. It's definitely not required, but they definitely hold these frequencies, and so they are really good beings to work with them. So it's a personal decision. I could have just said that. It's a personal decision. So
I'll just say, from a personal perspective and from what we see in students and clients and things like that, that as to kind of add to what Colleen already said, is that this energy really does help with healing that religious wounding and trauma. And I was in the place before that, don't even mention it. Don't mention any of it or triggered immediately. And even now, now how it is that I don't even still work primarily or exclusively with those, or I shouldn't say exclusively, I don't work primarily with those beings, but I'm not triggered if they come into a session, especially for people who would like to reestablish that relationship with them, or do work with them. Because before, and this is, I'll just kind of say it, before I would almost even a little have that reaction of like rolling my eyes with it. And that is just reverse judgment. Before, I would have an issue with the people that go to the church across the street from my house. And that to me is just reverse judgment and doesn't do anything for kind of healing into that more loving space or that more accepting space. And also that, receiving that mirror aspect, right? You're receiving also what you are putting out. And so this energy has healed that for me. And you see it really often with this energy. And at the same time, I am still primarily working with guides from, other belief systems, with animals. So there is that aspect. But if Jesus or Mary or, one of those pops in, or if I'm doing a spirit release, I might ask for their assistant. Angels are the same way. I don't really work with angels for my own personal practice. I'm going to be working with guides from more of maybe even an Eastern belief system. That's just who I identify with more, who I connect with more. But if they come in, or if a client needs them in a session, or people really receive that reconnection in class, or that's who they work with in class, it is all, I am so much more based in love with it all. And that is, one of those just huge healings of a lifetime. It's changed my perspective on everything, and it allows me to act more from love with it. And you see this, and it helps others to act more from love with it, because it is specifically a part of the frequencies of this energy. And it makes a really big difference, because how are we supposed to help contribute to that healing aspect if we can't act from love towards this belief system? Because I'm going to agree with you in a lot of the places that it has done and continues to do so much damage. But if I can't act in love towards them, how does that help heal that relationship in general? And so that is a really big difference. Now, with the church across my street, instead of projecting judgment, I can project love. I can have conversations. I can, not that I couldn't have the menial conversations before, but it is a really, really big difference. And so that is another piece of this. Also, if people do have different belief systems, they have different religious belief systems, and maybe they were turned away from these belief systems because of religious wounding, that it helps heal that as they are still in their own belief systems. And you'll see that in class and students or clients in this energy as well. So it is such a important part for a lot of people. And like, as Colleen said, that very different viewpoint of the deities that are within this, that they are love as well. They are not the judgmental, wrathful deities that have been portrayed for many eons, that are a part of our understanding about them. They're very different than that. And that is a really huge piece of it as well. So go ahead.
Danny, I'll have you in a minute, but let me just address this, because the question was not as much a lot about everything we're explaining. So we're also explaining it in a bigger picture, but the direct comment was about, the manual languaging, and that it often is something that you do have to explain in class. And so I think that's what I'm hearing in the actual question, was the languaging in the manual can create having to explain it in class. So I have developed my own explanation around it, and comfortable with it. It has become like less of an issue for me now, because I am comfortable with it more myself, and also made my own decisions around it. And then also because it is inclusive, just the inclusive language could be more written out. So I hope that answers the question. I see you're there in the car. You can shake your head if if I answered your question. And so, yeah, I know it's a whole thing. We have this discussion every class.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just been a big deal lately, and
Yeah.
I had to come to terms with it for different reasons. Mine was religious trauma, and I thought, why is this in here so much? and I did do healing on that, but it's so much beyond religious trauma. It's people who just don't, that's just not, that's not how they were raised. That's not their culture. That's not what they believe. They may have at one time, but no long, blah, blah, blah. So thank you. It takes so much time.
Yeah.
I hope I'm just going to write my own manual or use another one.
Well, or maybe just do a side flyer on it, like a one page definition or something from your perspective, and
Thank you so
add
much
the
for taking
inclusivity.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that'd be easier than writing your whole manual.
I agree. Or taking someone
Trust me.
else's.
We've been there and done that with our animal Reiki manual. So maybe just a 1 or 2 page explanation might be a good.
That's the best answer. Thank you so much.
There you go. Thanks for the question. It is up. And I've talked about this in my recent classes, not so much this specifically, but the whole subject is up. And it's such a difficult one because we want to be honoring of everyone. And also at the same time, Reiki is spiritual, but it's not religious. It's also, spirituality can equally be defined through, like I say, Reiki can absolutely be defined through biofield and science and frequency. And like for me, it shows itself in these bands of frequencies that, the higher and the lower frequencies, it shows itself in consciousness. So it's so much more than even just a spiritual connection with it. For me, there's the, internal personal Reiki energy that's within me and all the levels of consciousness that it lifts me and trains me to. It's all around me. And then I also think of it as beyond me. So I think of it as within. The Reiki energy is within us. It's what we're made of. It's what the energy of the earth is made of. And then there's the creation source of it beyond the earth. But again, that's just my own personal interaction with it, engagement with it. And so I think more than anything, what Reiki's trying to do is to teach us how to find our own perspective. Like, what's our own inner truth? Even if we agree on the same topic, we still have a variety of truth, of perception. So anyway, Danny, I know you wanted to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to add how you were saying that Reiki is a spiritually guided energy, because one time I was having a distance session with a brand new client. I didn't know anything about her, and I have no religious background. And so I don't typically use Jesus or anybody like that, just because it doesn't come naturally for me. And I was with this woman, and Mother Mary came in, Jesus. I was like, and I was really reluctant to say anything, and I did. And she said, "That's so amazing, because I'm holding rosary beads right now, praying." And so she was very religious, and her whole session was about that, and I had no idea. So it just came in, and to just trust your intuition with Reiki.
Caroline, I want to read what you just read too, what you just wrote too, about she just got back from France, spending time this year with Mary Magdalene, and shifted her relationships with Jesus. The messages came through animals, nature, and art. The constant reminders to laugh and have fun. That the healing energies are accessible to us, and that they are there constantly in an infinite supply. And then also I want to read what Taylor said, because Taylor does galactic astrology. She's been on both Caroline was just on our podcast about her art. And then Taylor's been on for astrology too. And Let's see, Taylor, I know I saw it, but now it's up here. If you want to say it, I don't know if you're there and able to look for it.
Yeah, I can say it.
Okay, thanks.
So I have seen and experienced the Jesus energy and the Jesus archetype in other star systems. So that comment, Colleen, you made that kind of offhand comment about Jesus for every planet. Yes, absolutely. You don't sound crazy to me in what I've seen in all my different client sessions and readings and personal journeys as well.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Yeah, yeah, presenting it as much of an energy as a being. Yeah. But also presenting as a being. And I think a lot of times in this kind of work, it's so that we have a preference to connect with what is the actual energy of it. But I don't know, that's where I get uncomfortable, because where I have my own experience of that, I definitely want to be careful with other people's belief systems. Also, just to say that Reiki never requires you to change your belief system to any other belief system. It is always going to take you deeper into yours. And so for a person who has a deeply religious practice, it's going to take them deeper into theirs. It's never about changing how you want to engage in these ways. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, next question is, if you attune a stone, a blanket, or other items, or charge or imbue would be other words for this, with Reiki, how long does it send out Reiki to the person who is holding or wearing the item? And Colleen, do you want to go ahead? I always like your answer for this.
So the question about imbuing an object, we actually Robyn and I wrote an article called Imbue Your Sacred Objects with Reiki. So really anything can be empowered. So imbued means empowered or placed. The energy is actually placed within it. In my own experience with it, let's say, if I imbue a crystal or a rock or something like that with Reiki, it stays there and in perpetuity. In my relationship with some of those stones, like my peace grid, for those of you that are on video, is right behind me. Those are all imbued very regularly with Reiki. And I spend time with them, and I can feel like when I feel like my connection with them kind of dwindles or diminishes a little bit, and I need to go back and charge them again. But do I think they need me to charge them? Probably not. Do I need the energy kind of increase for me in my relationship with them? So I don't know if I really have the definitive answer to that question. I think so.
Yeah, I was just going to add, it's also listening and personal preference, because some people charge it every day. So, and that's how they feel most connected, or what the right answer is for them. So it really is also just spending time and listening to your own answers around it.
And ask the rock.
Yeah.
Rocks, I know sometimes people are like, well, rocks don't have answers. Yes, they like have been here, they hold up the earth. So, and the little ones are, the kind of rolling stones that cruise around, but they do. We can definitely engage with them.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Danny. Full moon is a reminder to charge as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can charge and imbue and clear and all of that. That is lots of ways to do that. So yeah, awesome. Okay, next question. I had levels 1 and 2. I had the levels 1 and 2 taken. I took 1 and 2 a couple of years ago and never really practiced, but want to start now. What is your suggestion? Should I start or should I do another course as a refreshment? Although I haven't forgotten how it's done. And does this happen? So I think that's the full question.
Okay. So there's lots of different ways when you receive a Reiki attunement that is there unless you ask for it to leave or you never engage with it again. But if you want to re-engage with any of the Reiki energies, it really is more about, engaging with it. So for instance, I think of an analogy that, let's say I have a good friend and I haven't talked to them in a year, but suddenly I want to talk to them more and get closer on a regular basis with it. I might do things that make that happen, like call them or spend time with them or, pick up when they call me. So the same thing is true with Reiki energy. You can absolutely, through your own intention, just ask for Reiki to engage with you, for you to engage with it. And you do that by actually engaging with it. At the same time, some people feel more comfortable reviewing a class or taking a class from another teacher to get additional training or kind of feeling like they're getting recharged. It's not really something where, it's in the literal sense of recharging, because you can do that on your own. And then sometimes it's nice to do that with others or have that done for you. So kind of comparable to self-Reiki and getting a session from somebody else. Both work, both are great. They're different experiences. And you can choose what works best for you in any given moment. One of the things that we always try to make available, a resource, is for just this kind of situation, is our distance Reiki shares. They're free, they're online every Tuesday morning from 9:30 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. And you can join and not join. You can come late, you can leave early, but then you get to be in a community of others who are engaging in the same topics of conversation, the same energies that we're working with. You can also give and receive Reiki in the breakout rooms. And we also do some pretty powerful invocations and Reiki meditations and journeys. Those are also always posted on both our podcast channel and YouTube channels if you can't join us live. So there are other resources too. Some of the people here, like Taylor, have regular Reiki shares and that you can join. Kim, I think Kim had to leave, but
Yeah.
She also has regular Reiki shares. You can join them with others. You can just start doing Reiki again and, invite it to activate. It will activate. But again, one of the things to realize is Reiki doesn't impose itself. When you receive an attunement, that is a big statement of yes and agreement that you want the connection with the energy. So it will engage with you in ways that may be more subtle. And because you've already said yes to the connection. And the connection is actually within you. And so it will engage with you in ways that may be more subtle. And also then when you're engaging with the energy and you're activating it regularly, you have more experience of its energy and how that's working with you. So it really is a matter of just doing it. It's different than you have to do it in order for it to work with you. It's not about that. It's definitely not, requiring you, like if you haven't done Reiki, therefore I'm not coming. The Reiki won't come. Or you have to do all the right things in order for the Reiki energy to work with you. It's definitely not from that perspective. But it really is kind of a relationship. And, you know, the more you want a relationship with it, the more experience of it that you want to have, then you engage with it more in any way you want to, any method you use. Reiki on the fly works, Reiki self-Reiki works, Reiki with others works, and receiving Reiki from others works. So engaging with it definitely gives you a deeper experience of it. But I do think of it as like, I have some really good friends that I can go a long time with, not talking to, but I still know they're on the planet. I still know they're here. I'm still like, I can reach out anytime. And that relationship is still within me and still special to me, and also part of my life, even if I haven't had direct contact. But if you want to re-engage with it, you can do that however you choose. And taking another Reiki class, to me, is always a good idea. I mean, but it's not required by the Reiki energy, but I think it's always a good idea.
Also, there's a lot of info you can well, depending on your lineage, you can receive an attunement for in like during a Reiki session. I know you're already attuned, but just to kind of re-engage with that or re-up it. And then also there are the Reiki hand positions. So the self Reiki hand positions, if you need to review that, review the symbols, anything like that, is another great tool that are out there. We have a video of the Reiki self hand positions. It's, you know, can be found in the Healing Touch manual, the 1 and 2 manual, if you want to find some of the hand positions as well. And then agreed to all of Colleen's tools and resources also. So, all right. So the next question is from Margaret Mary. I think you didn't include the question, and so I think you're usually pretty comfortable unmuting. If you want to go ahead and do that, you can, or you can. I saw your second question in the chat.
So I have two questions. One is on protection, and it may, like, Robyn, you came in really clear, Reiki on the fly. And the other question will be about dowsing. So I had an experience around Memorial Day weekend. It was super early in the morning. I was walking, chanting and toning, and these people came onto the path, blocking it. 3 people, and one person, 2 people commented to the one person, and there was a small opening. So I walked between, and the one person flipped, started yelling and screaming at me. And, you know, I was completely deep in my Reiki practice, completely deep in my head. And I just kept moving, and I turned around and just put my hands up because my hands got super, super hot in that moment. And I was probably about 40 minutes into my normal chanting, Reiki toning. And this is like, really is Reiki on the fly, because Robyn, you often talk about going into the commissary, and it's like, oh yeah, Reiki on. And this person wouldn't stop verbally attacking me and started walking towards me. And, you know, I just put my hands up, and it was just returning on love with love in my head. And I was guided to go forward. And I put my hands down at my side, projecting backwards, and Reiki came through very clear, saying that person's not going to receive. So I just sent to the situation and the circumstance. And I've had that experience before where when we talk about the auric field, the biofields, walking through those energy fields, like hadn't seen this person before, saw them several times after. I'm confused and curious with regards to protection in those instances. So yeah, anything you can share?
Well, there's a couple things with it for sure. One is that I don't know for sure that Reiki can create such a field around us that we don't ever experience the lower frequencies of other people and their behavior. So with that said, I also believe that it increases your perceptions and your ability to perceive at a 360 view. Of course, safety is what you have to always pay attention to first. What's the reality of the safety that you're in? So to me, that would be first discernment and assessment, and letting Reiki guide me as to what is my personal safety in this situation. What do I need to do about this? What can I do about this? And, your guidance was to move forward, and felt as if that guidance was the accurate guidance for you with safety. I think you did all of the things you can do in that circumstance with Reiki to alleviate it to the best you can. But then also what I would do is do the after work to have any of the cords or connectors from the event dissolved, because regardless of even if they didn't attach or anything else, an event like that is just it's just, I'm going to say, it just sucks. I don't know what else to say, but it's terrible. I'm so sorry that happened, because that's painful no matter what. And to have that kind of a verbal attack when you're just doing your thing. And thank goodness it wasn't a physical attack, but a verbal attack like that can feel physical, like it's a physical experience. I know that, Robyn said icky. I know that you have Karuna Reiki, Zonar and Halu in Karuna Reiki are very specific tools for this. For psychic attack, Halu specifically is about psychic attack. But for those who don't have Karuna Reiki, I don't want you to feel like the Reiki you have isn't sufficient to take care of you. But that's what I would say where I would be at this point. And also engaging with Reiki to possibly get them on a different time schedule that they don't even enter your field, because it said you said you've seen them a couple times after, and that's uncomfortable. I mean, more than uncomfortable. That's like I say, I'm sorry that happened. That is a miserable experience, to have somebody do that. So I think that's what I can say about it is, do either self Reiki to remove those cords and connectors, or I know you said you're working with some other people, having them remove it. Do what you can, keep your discernment and keep your safety first, really inviting Reiki to assess your situation and your safety circumstance. And I don't know, I don't think you really carry around a phone, but maybe recording it if it ever happens again. I know you don't, but I don't know. It seems like, I don't know if we see more of it now or if it's really happening more where people feel entitled to treat other people that way. So does that help at all?
It does. I have had a number of these experiences, and in doing my classwork, and I'm in my 4th year of Next Step with Colleen and Robyn, and I call the 12 Heavens the 4th year because that's the class that I'm in. One of my gifts is pattern recognition, and I just found myself looking at this pattern where I come around people and they're just, verbally attacking me. I've had a few people physically come towards me, but immediately I have gone to my Reiki training instead of my former life training, and, put my hand above my heart and below my heart and just conscialization, using the distance symbol. And I'm amazed at how that stops, especially when I'm in a position where I can't physically go anywhere, and really leaning into my training. And I have, when I was on the mountain, Mount Karama last year, I went early and I stayed late. And when I stayed late, I had a very powerful experience, and I literally laid prone and prostrate upon the mountain and asked for Anshin Ditsume, and submitted and surrendered and said, teach me everything I don't know. Bless, protect, guide, heal, and empower me. And when I get out of my head and into my heart, and I open myself to that, the information comes in very quickly, and it's almost, I feel the guidance and I take it. But in looking at that repeated pattern, the only thing that is the same is me. And so I'm holding the mirror up, doing the mirror work, and asking, what is there for me to learn from this? Are there other actions to take? And, when I'm out in nature, I'm not taking my phone into the ocean. I'm not taking it on the trails. I go there to ground and connect, similar to, when I was on the mountain in Japan. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and the other highlighted piece of this, Em, is the thought of, going in to heal any patterning within you. Somebody else is saying they've had it happen too lately. Yeah. So, going in for whatever patterning is, like you say, some of this lifetime, ancestral histories, going in and doing any of that healing. One of the things I know you've heard me talk about it, many of us have many lifetimes of warrior healers or warriors for spiritual evolution. And we also have many old healings that need to happen from that, empowerments that can happen from that, things that, we bring with us into this life, gifts that we have. But I've also experienced as a practitioner where many people are born into this lifetime to transition out of that warrior healer and into the light bringer healer. And so it can be a transition time. I definitely transitioned that in this lifetime. Like for me, that's a personal experience. And so the difference is in that kind of an energy is really doing exactly what you did, is activating the light, and the light illuminates the lower frequencies. The light illuminates it and trains into these higher frequencies. And so it may be something even to go in and look at within yourself in the aspect of transitioning into a light bringer lifetime and style of healer. And that's more than just this one event. It's a soul level for me. It was a soul level decision that I am moving into this style as a healer and moving out of the lifetimes of warrior. So even for instance, like I don't think of myself as a peaceful warrior. I take that word out completely, because in this life, what I can do is empower the light and strengthen the light in all the different ways. So it may be something to really go into that idea of like fully letting go and now bringing in, and a completion of the letting go into the new beginning of this, like fully transformed into the light bringer energy. Because you've already made that decision. You've taken the actions for it. You've made the decision. You have developed the skills, learned the skills for that. So there may still be some energetic piece that Reiki can help heal. Yeah, doing that whole deep level, ancestral, past life, this life.
Thank you. That really resonated with me, for me, and I could hear and feel everything that you were sharing, and there was some visual cues that were occurring at the same time. So thank you for that.
I would also include in that releasing any old oaths or vows, promises, curses, spells. And you don't even need to know where they're from or when they're from. Like I find I don't need to dive into the what of it or where or how. I'm just like, and I think you're in this place, like you are complete with all of that. And now you're ready to just let the energy, now the energy needs to be released, not that you have to go back and investigate it. I mean, you can if you want, but I think you're at a place that you don't even have to investigate it. You can just, like, hey, bring in that authority of love, the authority of compassion, the forgiveness, grace of forgiveness. And what we mean by forgiveness, and I know you've heard this before, but for everybody else listening, what we mean by that is that these events no longer have any authority to have power over you. It doesn't have the right to have things, that are still stuck within you because of it. And so that's what the grace of forgiveness does, is it doesn't mean you accept it or anything else. It just means that it gets to release from you, because you have the divine right to be sovereign. You have the divine right to be in your wholeness this lifetime, in your Holy Spirit, if you will, to be in the wholeness of you in this lifetime. And so it may just be like you're at a really big point of that transition. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So it's a good question, and thank you for asking it and being willing to share it in that way, because it's beneficial for a lot of people. Mm-hmm.
Does it work to ask about the dowsing?
Sure, I'm not.
Or does anybody else have anything to share around that?
I'm not very skilled in dowsing. I have some experience with it. You know who is skilled with that is Pam LeBlanc, Reiki on the farm, Reiki from the farm.
Well-
When we did one of the Reiki retreats, she taught us dowsing there.
Well, Pam is the one that I learned dowsing from in one of the classes that I took from her. And I emailed her to ask her because she taught me body dowsing in the class. And then I learned about pendulum dowsing, and I don't know if that's the correct term. And I did email Pam to ask if I could get some discernment around that. Do Danny, Robyn, Colleen, do any of you guys work with a pendulum?
We actually have a second question about pendulums that I was going to go to next. So this is perfect. And Danny actually has a lot of experience with a pendulum.
I want to answer one thing before Danny does specifically about this. So all of these are divination practices. So oracle cards are divination, throwing bones is divination, pendulums are divination, dowsing is divination. All of it is the ability to access the information in another way, to divine the information. So that's the general term that all of it falls under. Tarot cards, you can learn it from reading a rock, for instance. There are a lot of different divination tools, and a pendulum would be one of those. So Danny, I know you work with them in every session, I think.
Yes, I do. And those of you who don't know what a pendulum is, if you're online, here is a pendulum. I don't know if you can see it, but
yeah.
And so I use this before a session. And if it's a distant session, I have my little helper here, a little chakra helper. And so for me, it's a yes, no, or maybe answer. And to me, it's my intuition. It's like I already know, but this pendulum is my little helper, and it helps me. And so what I do is before the session, or when the session begins, I go over each chakra of the person. And for me, this going in a circle right now is a yes. And I just go over each chakra, and then Reiki actually fills the space. It releases if there's any tension or block, and then I fill that space with Reiki. So the pendulum to me is just a guide. And then at the end of the session, I go over each chakra again, and there has never been a time after a session, a Reiki session, that the chakras aren't all aligned and open and bridged together and balanced together. But I think it's really a great tool to have. It's kind of fun too. I keep one here at my desk. I keep one in the car. I have them all over the place. And sometimes you can just get a necklace or anything that dangles and use it. But it's really going off, I think, our vibration and what we're thinking already. And so that's how I use it. So I use Reiki to clear and to fill the space.
And I would just add that if you're talking about it specifically for dowsing, and Danny, I would imagine that you probably agree with this, is that, with the dowsing rods, for example, or body dowsing, you're really just asking for confirmation on a yes or a no. Yes. And the pendulum works the same way. So you're going to have the yes question, the no question to determine which way it's going to spin. And so a pendulum is going to work the same way with that. Where you're going to have your established yeses and nos, and then you can have that within the space to do it in the same way as a dowsing rod. And the good thing about a pendulum is that it's going to be a little easier to transport. They're small. So maybe even a little easier to use within certain spaces, as opposed to, the dowsing rods that are the metal rods that are like about a foot to a foot and a half long. So that's one benefit of using a pendulum, but it's going to be, there's going to be people that are more experienced with this, like such as Pam or something, but generally speaking, it's the same concept. It's just using a different tool with it.
We also had a comment earlier about someone using a pendulum and not getting an answer. And for me, I have a relationship with each of mine that I use different ones for different timings. And so I just work with it. It's like when I get a new pendulum, I clear it with Reiki. I charge it with Reiki. I hold it. I take it with me. I put it in my pocket. I just keep it with me. And I invite Reiki to help, give me messages. So just.
And Danny, my understanding with pendulums, when you don't get an answer, that's also an answer.
That is an answer. Yeah. So for me, and everyone's different. For me, my going to the right is a yes. Going back and forth is a no. And not doing anything is confusion, like it needs more questions.
Yeah, maybe more clarifying questions, or sometimes the path hasn't been decided.
Yes.
Okay.
Confusion. So you can ask in a different way as well.
Why might a different answer be received, body dowsing versus pendulum? I would ask that question. That's what I would say. Is I would ask why it might be different for it. So, yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, we have 2 more questions, and I think, Colleen, maybe we can answer these quickly since we are at time, but also I know these people have been waiting patiently for these questions, so maybe we can answer them briefly. So the first one is when animals pass, do they join the divine animal kingdom? And if so, would they be in the third heaven? So there's a lot, there's a lot of answers to this question. The short answer is yes, they can join the divine animal kingdom. The divine animal kingdom, for those of you that are unaware, is the divine representation of the animals on earth. So we work with the divine animal kingdom in animal Reiki. And of course, they're outside of animal Reiki too. They can be divine animal spirit guides, things like that as well. So the divine animal kingdom is housed in the third heaven or higher, and the third heaven being the enlightened realms. So the place where there isn't any duality. So we know that they are non-dual animal beings that are there. So that's kind of the short answer is yes, they can. The longer answer is they don't always. So it is kind of their choice on where they go, and how they do that. They can certainly be guides for us, and only us, only we are going to know if they're a guide or not. Like that's your own personal relationship with them. Some animals are going to choose to cross over and remain in that relationship with you, and some are not. And so I would say in the examples kind of that we have, Colleen has, Debbie, I know you've heard the story, and many of you that are listening have heard the story of her heart horse that guided her to Reiki, and would probably still be in a level of relationship with her from that perspective of being a guide. When my 2 dogs passed, I would say I've learned a lot from them. One of them, I believe, has reincarnated, and the other one, I still can connect in with them, and they still teach me, but they're not necessarily guides. So it just really depends. And then I have other clients that their animals that have passed have remained a guide and kind of joined in that circle of the divine animal kingdom and been in that place. So the answer is yes, but also not always. And it's just going to depend on the animal. It's going to depend on your relationship with them and your guidance on what you have experienced with them, becoming a part of the divine animal kingdom. I think when they, it's the same with loved ones too. Sometimes with, our loved human people that have passed, sometimes they are going to remain as a guide in ways where maybe they'll show up in different times, show up with guidance in different times, but they may not be a spirit guide. And then other times, loved ones that have passed are just going to have crossed over, and maybe you don't have that necessarily that relationship, and then other times maybe they will be a spirit guide for you. So it's going to be the same thing with an animal as well. And so there's kind of infinite possibilities when it comes to how that all works. But if you are feeling guided that your animal, or your animal companion, I should say, if they've crossed over and they've joined the divine animal kingdom and are going to continue to be a guide for you, I would just definitely trust that. Right. Colleen, do you have any addition to that?
No, I think you really covered it.
Okay. All right. And then the next question is, did I see somebody unmute? Maybe it was just a camera.
Oh, Debbie did.
Oh, go ahead, Debbie. Oh, hold on. You're still muted. 1 second. There you
That's
go.
me. Thanks. Hi. So if I thought my dog, I'm just specific, was a spirit guide to me, then that is in the divine animal kingdom. Is that what I got from that?
Yes. If that is the guidance that you have, I would say it's not that they would be a part of the divine animal kingdom for you, but not necessarily for other people. And the divine animal kingdom is going to be kind of an infinite idea of that it is its own representation. And then we're going to have our own personal relationship with different divine animals. And then we might have our own personal relationship with animals that have joined the divine animal kingdom, but not necessarily for other people.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So then, can you talk a bit about how to avoid spiritual bypassing when practicing Reiki? So, when we're talking about spiritual bypassing, what we mean by that most commonly is a broader category, is just kind of saying, everything is going to be all right because we're spiritual, or that Reiki might fix everything. For example, that can be another form of spiritual bypassing. Just, use Reiki for an example. It could be any spiritual tools that are out there, any modalities. Just use Reiki and it'll be fine. You'll be fine. There's that's a larger, it's a really large category. So I can't use all of the examples of that, but that would be kind of what we mean when we're talking about, spiritual bypassing. And we've talked a decent amount about spiritual bypassing in this, that we do really try to be honoring of not spiritually bypassing people, especially as Reiki practitioners and as Reiki teachers. That a lot of times what we can do is we can, first of all, just listen. That's one of the really big pieces of people needing support, is that we can just listen to them and hear them. To know that our spiritual tools may or may not just fix everything. There's really hard things that happen to us. There's really hard things that happen in this world. And just saying something like, well, just do Reiki, is not necessarily going to fix those things. And as practitioners and as teachers, to know that we can't always fix those things. And that, I think, is one of the things, as far as like the hard things in this world, can be hard for us as Reiki practitioners and teachers, that we just can't fix it for people. We have grief, we have trauma, we have all of these things that are through our experiences in our own life, that are through experiences of the world. And there has been this kind of insurgence of spiritual bypassing. I think it's probably one of those things that has always happened, but because we have terms for it now, it helps us to recognize it a little bit better, and also have the discussion around it, because it is an important discussion. So as a practitioner or in spiritual modalities, it is really important to know that this is something to be really conscious of, to allow people to be in their feelings, in their emotions, in their experiences, and to not just say that, and I'm just going to use Reiki because we're in a Reiki podcast, so it's the easiest one to use, but it's not exclusive to Reiki, to just say, oh, just do Reiki on it, and that it's going to necessarily fix what people are going through. There are other tools that people need to have support, such as therapy. That's another place that you might want to. Reiki is an integrative modality. It's a complementary modality, and sometimes people need more support than just Reiki. There's things that, another thing that it might be that I can use as an easier example is like addiction. To just say, oh, just do Reiki on it, it may or may not help you with that process. You may need additional support for that process. So that's when we're talking about, again, Reiki can complement those things. It can help with those things, but it may not be your solution or your answer to it. And so it's just a really important thing to know as practitioners, that we need to be really, really conscious of this aspect. And that I think it's also, like I said, it's important to talk about so that we know these terms, we know what we are doing when, if we do that with spiritual bypassing. And I think we say it pretty commonly. I just actually said it to the other day to somebody. It's like, well, Reiki may not fix this. Having gone through, not as bad as some of the things that people go through in this world, but having gone through some pretty major health problems recently, Reiki didn't fix my problems. It wasn't this miracle that I had one session or one class and it just fixed my problems. But what it did do, I will say, is I'm certainly grateful that I had it through that time frame, because it certainly helped with my own mental, emotional, spiritual well-being through it. And it also helped me find solutions. So what it did is it highlighted different solutions that I needed in other areas, such as medical help, alternative medical help. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that the trail that it led me down led me to the places that did help me with it. And so those are sometimes the things that can come through Reiki. Also your solutions and the additional support that you might need when we are going through helping ourselves to support while we're going through challenging things, or if we are going through healing our own trauma from this lifetime, for example. So, and with grief, for example, I'm glad that I have Reiki through that process, because it does really help me, but it's not necessarily going to fix my grief or the reasons for my grief. So that is where we can get into a little bit of trouble with the spiritual bypassing, or that's where I should say we see a lot of the times with spiritual bypassing is those kinds of things. I think too, there can be spiritual bypassing in some like attraction qualities, not with relationship, but attracting things to us. That's another place that I do believe that intention and attraction is there. However, I do think that there can be some bypassing in that segment of, well, just attract joy and your grief will go away. It's like, well, no, sometimes there's support that I need, whether it's through Reiki, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through the aspect of time, that it can help through time, that I can't just necessarily get over that like that because I've used one tool in my toolbox. So I think that Reiki also talking about it, first of all, is helpful. And then I think that Reiki can also help us as people who are giving Reiki for people who are going through challenging times to help us know how to navigate that situation without bypassing their experience.
I would just add quickly to that is that for me, I had to be careful not to spiritually bypass myself and expecting
Good one.
that because I was so spiritual that now I'm not going to either go through things, feel things, act in certain ways. Like I thought, okay, now I'm going to be walking around all spiritual and, that will bypass being human on the earth in the 21st century. And so one of the things I feel that Reiki has really helped me with is to be aware that I'm still going to be in human consciousness, which includes higher and lower frequencies and the choice of where I'm going to be within those at any given time. And so for myself, it first came as the recognition of like healing that expectation so that I also didn't have personal disappointment in myself, that I did not meet the expectation of what I thought it would look like when I was, like really spiritually engaged. And then really learning to love my human consciousness and my experience here, understanding that, my soul said, let's go have that experience. And so, I question it all the time, obviously, which is why we're here. So that would be the only other thing I would add to that whole piece is my own personal spiritual bypassing. Like, oh, just because I'm spiritual now, that won't bother me. It does. But I would say the good part is that I have so much more discernment and clarity and choice about where I'm at in my daily life each day. And that for me, as I've always said, Reiki for me is a life management tool. Like I use it to go through life, to stay conscious, to stay aware, even when I choose to be unconscious and kind of check out, I do that too. And allowing that, like, I think I thought I'm supposed to always be in this, hyper state of higher consciousness, and not yet. So I don't know if that ever happens. But I feel like I'm in a pretty good place most of the time. So, but I'm still going to be human, still have human nature.
That's awesome, Colleen. Thank you for adding that. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and end this episode of the live. We just always appreciate your questions and these discussions and conversations. And we will see you next time. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We open the circle. Thanks for all of you listening later, too. All you guys joining us.